Okay, so here we are on the second impulse round. The Assyrians are up first, and they have some 14 points when I add these up, but that's a negative, so I take some of that off. So they have a little bit less than a lot less than they usually do because of the expenditure they had to make. I'm really going into the detail that I'm going in terms of the decisions and the looks because everything's so confusing to me, which I don't know if that's ever useful or not. I know obviously to some people it's going to be horrible, but I'm still trying to get a grasp on what the thinking is, and I feel like as long as I'm struggling with it, it's worth showing that struggle. For some reason, then, once it gets easier for me, I don't explain it as much. But it's because you get the internal conversations that I'm having in my head, to a large extent. I'm feeling like I screwed something else up, and again, it has to do with a difficulty. This should make perfect sense, right? Interphase, conquest is under interphase. You'd only check for conquest during an interphase. That doesn't meet my expectations of the game. So I'm thinking, yeah, given the period of time of a turn as a single ruler of Assyria, I should get to make conquest checks as I roll into the countries, as I did here, as I was planning on doing here. Well, now when I look it up, I'm realizing, wow, this is a different segment of the game. It's not in the normal actions. So a war will not come to an end except at the end of a reign. I'm not sure I'm thrilled with that, but it certainly does make life harder on the Assyrians to have to cope with it that way. So I don't know. I don't know how much sense it makes, but I guess I'll try to play it more by the rules here. I think I liked what I was doing better before. Certainly punishment, you can swing in, get a successful punishment, pull down, get another successful punishment the way I have been with the conquest. But for example, I'm going to be at war with Israel the whole time. This guy would have to be paying supply the whole time, and I'd have to hope he gets a conquest. I'm not going to reverse what I've done, but I'm going to try to play correctly from now on. But yeah, it seems like with the reign of one of these kings could be easily 20, 30 years. It seems like you could have multiple conquests in that era, and you can have that still. And more importantly, that the army that's sent to conquer one of the territories wouldn't have to occupy the territory particularly militarily, but swing into play. But then there's the conversion of the people and everything. The problem, though, is the army, as long as you're fighting someone, you really do need a field army in there. It just doesn't feel like it matches the time span correctly to not allow the conquest. And that's probably why I just assumed you were allowed to do that as soon as you made a conquest check situation. Now let's see if they change things here. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be in a specific era of the phase. And there's a lot of reasons why this, why I might have made this mistake. One of which is the rules are just this huge blob of what you can do in a single action, in a single impulse. But this is clearly a separate segment. This is the interphase here. And I think it's pretty clear what they intend. I just don't know if I like it that way. And I might end up modding back to what I've been doing. But let's keep going with this. Let's go with the actual rules for a bit. I think I may have been kind of foolish by using assaults to take these cities. As I'm moving through my actions, I've chased these in here. I think I'm going to, now, especially with this big pile here, assaulting it doesn't make much sense. Hunger siege, screw that shit. I'm going to use standard siege. All I have to do is get enough hits to reduce this, but actually, because I want to operate quickly, I may just use my surrender card here. I have to have twice as many units in the area around the city as the defender has. Oh, I can't use this on a fortress. Now, fortress, I don't remember what level that is. Okay, so I'm getting contradictory information here. The pictures on the map says these are fortresses, whatever they are, and these are cities. And when I look at the different things on the map, they all look the same. Well, maybe these gray things make it a fortress. Susa is a fortress, so I won't be able to create a surrender action there. Okay, that's fine. That is not what I got from somewhere else, but it may have the same effect, which was that cities with, I thought a 4, but I guess it's a 3 rating or higher, qualified as fortresses, and I think that matches the imagery, so we're okay there. I couldn't tell the difference. Let's see, they distinguished them here. So this was a city with an eco. This is a city or a fortress. This is a capital. And then we come to something different, fortresses. And it doesn't really tell you anything about it. And somewhere, though, there's a little chart, God knows where, that shows the strength factors there as to which is what, maybe. You know, I mean, a lot of reading through these rules and looking at them is guesswork. You have to kind of, some cases it's not so much, but a lot of it, and I'm not seeing it now. I know I found something somewhere that gave me, oh, the victory point chart. That's where I got it. So take fortress, says level 4. Take city, says level 3. That's what distinguished for me. And now I'm beginning to not understand because this does not correspond with the imagery here that this seems to represent. I can't read this if this is a 2 or a 3 or something else. It's some little thing. But yeah, there's... oh, combat factors are reduced in a fortress. That makes it harder too. I got no idea, you know, what their intention is, but there seems to be a difference here between Heliopolis, which is a level 3 with this icon, and this which is level 3. And I don't know what we're going to talk about in terms of why is this different here. You know, I got no idea. I'm going to go with the icon on the map, but the victory points for level 3. Maybe because this is a level 3 fortress, it'll get extra victory points. Level 2 gives me no victory points, though, and that's what I just took here. All right, so I guess we'll do the regular siege attack to try to reduce the strength of it. I'm going to need a lot of hits for that because it's level 3, so I'm going to need 3, 4, 5, 6 hits to take it in one shot. But if lowering the rating on it is more valuable than trying to long-term siege a capital. And at the end of the Assyrian phase, I managed to take Susa. I think I'm set up so that I can start making rolls for conquest, but it's not... Geez, I really hate this happening over in the interface. I don't think you understand how much that seems wrong to me. But I have no guarantees. See, this is the thing. By it happening in the interface, I get no feedback, right? I'm in the middle of a campaign. It looks like I'm doing okay. I'm going to have to pay to maintain a garrison, whatever. But I don't know if I've won or not. I won't know until the end of this king's reign. That just doesn't make sense to me. Now, for this to work, since this is a power, I have to take 5 home cities, or the capital and at least 3 other home cities. So I've got to take another city anyway. But when I make the check, I'm going to have to roll a die and add 2 to it and come under the number of cities, equal to or under. So even if I take this 4th city, I've only got 4 cities for the check. That means I only succeed on a 1 or a 2. So that's not really very effective. But the fact that it doesn't happen until the end of this king's reign, wow, does that nibble at my sensibility here? Because, I've wiped them off the fucking map. I've taken this out. Now, there's also a surrender, which absolutely felt like that's part of something that happens in the middle of a turn. And you know what? Conquering, see, this is bullshit, because conquering's not part of the interface, because a conquered country are committed to a grace period. That grace period actually is settled. You could conquer by taking everything. I don't know. Yeah, but it still seems to happen during the interface. Yeah, I think it's bullshit, and I think I get to make a check. And I'm happier with that. It's not how the rules seem to imply because of the positioning. But you know what? These rules are such a fucking mess that I'm willing to accept that the designer did not impose structure where he intended it to, given how badly it was done across the board. So I'm making myself a fucking conquest check, and to hell with this game. Because it just makes so much more sense. So I have failed the I couldn't take it anyway. I have to take another city. Okay. Now, conceivably, these guys could surrender. But we just took another city. I didn't give victory points for that. It's a fortress. Not a level 3. It's a level 3 city and a fortress. Hey, should I give it 4 points then? I don't know. I'm going to split the difference and give it 2, and we're making up rolls left and right where we go, but I feel like you got to do that in a game like this. I mean, it's not like I haven't in Europa Universalis. You just haven't seen me struggle my way through that game. I struggled my way through Le Grand Guerre, but I had a tremendous resource there where I was in email contact with one of the designers. I'm sure that, although I've heard bad things about trying to contact Udograd about this game and maybe others, but I'm sure there are resources where I could find out how other people are playing it. But you know what? I'm too old to bother with that shit. I play it by the rules as I see them, or make them up. Just ask Herr Doctor, although that was totally unintentional that I completely rewrote his game on the fly. I feel like I'm doing that here, though. Okay, it's unlikely I'm going to get to control Susa, so I did the deportation card. That took some of my points. I also spent points on rebuilding my army, because I can see there's a Babylonian army in play here, etc. I've only got 1 point left. That I'm banking. I'm beginning to feel kind of the strain of doing everything I want to. I wasn't able to declare war and move against the Phrygians. I wasn't able. I guess I could have started a siege here with that banked point. That would maybe be a good idea. Because if I take this city, it's all over. And if they get another turn, they get to play another card. Alright. We're not done with our turn yet. Felt like the turns were getting shorter for Assyria. But they'll find places to get their points. And what I missed, these guys I think pillaged this turn. But what I missed was these guys are not in home territory, and they've got 2 pillage markers. I don't really want to spend money on them. I'm going to roll an attrition. It's a dangerous thing to do. And what kind of siege do I want to do here? It's a cheesy territory, but they've got a lot of people. I think with my leader, with my bonus Assyrian dice, I'm going to go with a normal siege action there. That's what I was saying. My fairly big armies look like they could plow through things using siege actions instead of assault actions. I've been doing the assault actions, and those are more costly. You end up taking more losses from them. So what's weird here, the pass impulse card. I thought it was just a pure pass that gives you these 3 extra points, but I'm not so sure, because it depends on how you read skip this impulse. I've already collected my economic value for the round. If I don't collect that, I'm actually at -1 still, rather than 4 there. So I'm thinking I'm going to play this for the 0 because I've got some units in here that I can recover, but a big part of my forces are on the foreign war card. I'd like to come in later, after that's resolved. So I want to use it no matter what, but I'm just not sure, do I get the economic points that I collected here? My feeling is no. The skip the impulse. Let me see if there's a... Yeah, there's no real phasing to the action phase in terms of... Let's see. You have to play a card, but that's not really completely aligned time-wise there. And income action points, structurally in the rules, it's in a stupid place that doesn't make any sense. There's no real, hey, here's what you do in an action phase, and then you have all these things set out to you. So I have to kind of make it up, like so much in this game. And I think the intention here is that you skip the entire impulse, including the income phase. Which is weird, because you need to do the income phase before you can play a card normally, just for the points for it. So that's what the Medes are going to do. And I guess because they skipped their income, their impulse, we're going to still stay without the ability for Assyria to preempt, because there wasn't really a turn here. And I'll put this up here to remind me that I'm going to get double my eco plus the 3 points all at once in one kind of bigger impulse. That's a nice way if it's hard to get the gathering tribes event. That hasn't come into effect in terms of affecting the economy of the Medes, but if you're having trouble getting that played because you don't have enough income, it seems unlikely. Well, I don't think it's a plus card, is it? Yeah, it's a plus card, so it should be pretty easy to play. Unless all your territory's been captured or something. So yeah, I'm not sure it's terribly useful in most cases, but you know, it's a 3-point card, and in this particular case it seemed to work well. So now we'll move on to Egypt. Egyptians took their action, spending a lot of action points on breaking the Persian alliance here. Now, something had already been done on an alliance breaker card on Phoenicia, and the Assyrians canceled that out with a response. They can't do that with this one. They're out of cards to do it. I gotta pay attention to the special abilities, of the different powers. Now, that card doesn't have it. It's not on that card. Oh, Egypt's special abilities are somewhere else. But those are things that I'm liable to forget if I'm not careful. So maybe, well, look here. Their only really special ability, this is on everybody's card, useful things, is this limited deportation, I guess. Which I haven't needed to use. But I gotta keep track with other people just to remember, you know, what their special factors are here. So Assyria has some neat ones if I recall correctly, but I don't know. So on the back of this card, God. No, I think I used the card that it's on the back of over here. Which is going to be standing army, I guess. It's hard to see because all their specials are on here. Assyrian regulars, 1 bonus battle die. We've been doing that. Let's see. I gotta keep these up so that I can notice at least that they exist and maybe remember them. But yeah, the Egyptians want to take Gaza. That's important to them. They have some other factors they want to take too. I think Assyria is going to preempt here to prevent Babylon from getting another move. Take another chance at conquering Edom. And again, that's not what the rules seem to imply, but the game doesn't make sense to me unless conquest, and it seems to contradict other rules, unless conquest and surrender and such not can be done outside of the end of turn interfaces. I've been cheating big time on the preemptions though. Those don't generate income. Yeah, you can get your income off your card, or you can spend your income or whatever. That makes it a much more difficult choice because I think I still have to pay I still am going to have to pay the see, now here it says, remember, the income is per impulse round, not per impulse, which fine. Well, there's nowhere where I've found in the game where it says that. Let's see. Hey, here's the course of play for the things. This is what belonged in the sequence of play, or needed to be expressed there, and isn't. You must play a card, then you get your income. And this doesn't seem to help terribly much in terms of making it clearer. That would be a place where you'd expect, you know, even in the disorganized state it was in, that they'd clearly state what the sequence would be for that beginning part of the turn. Now they vote impulse. No, they don't. But apparently, yeah, you're not supposed to get your AP on those. So those 2 cheating extra ones that I took, boy, they really were cheating because I took my income from them as well. I don't know what to do about that. There's not much I can at this point. Assyria's just been being cheated for pretty heavily. I think I do still want to move because I want to take another city and see if I can get another conquest check. Now that's the thing. I'm not going to allow a conquest check if you don't take something new. Again, making up new rules as I go, but you know, it's the only way I can make sense out of this thing. It resulted in a successful conquest check against Edom. They are knocked out. I put them up here. I'll mark them on my sheet to record when exactly it happened. I think it's pretty clear though actually from this. But more importantly, I took Deluron. I've added that to my territory. You see, I pulled out of all the other cities to help represent that. I'm going to have to spend a decent amount of points gathering my forces to launch an attack on Babylon. And right now Babylon might be able to do something against my spread out and weakened forces. Extend their own position a little bit. You may say, wow, you're making Assyria more potent and you know, they're just rolling over everything. Yeah, they did though. That's the problem. And the real difficulty I'm having is with, if they can't conquer things sequentially and knock them out of the war, I'm not sure they can come anywhere near what they historically managed to do in terms of knocking these countries out. We'll see. Babylon rebuilt their army a little bit. Got more than this guy can command. They bought themselves a new leader. He's on the flip side. You get a random leader when you need such. It really means I can't take any operations. I don't know what I was hoping for, but if he gets a chance at getting us an increase next turn, so I wanted to buy one. Thought maybe there would be a chance I get some dice there, but that was actually pretty low. So there's not much advantage to having bought him, but I did buy a bunch of archers that'll help defend Babylon against any attack. I feel like that's about all I can do is defend the home city at this point. Now we come to an Elam, not Edom, Elam turn. And the Assyrians again have an opportunity to interrupt here. The question is, how much do they really want to? How much do they want to get done on this turn? In particular, I could gather my forces, and I've got to do that before I take on Babylon. I need to get Babylon under siege fairly soon, I think. Later, I may want to play more than one card at a time. But right now, I don't have anybody I'm terribly focused against. The only problem I have right now is these Medes, or Medians, or whatever. And they're going to be an issue. And I've got to kind of decide, this new army that I brought into play to go punish the Phrygians or the Syrians. Well, now that I no longer have, and I only did it for punishment, now that I no longer have the Persians available, and that punishment wasn't necessary. But we'll let it stand like all the other errors I've made, because this one actually hurts the Assyrians. That's kind of cool. I'm in some risk here of the Medes taking some of my territory if I don't move an army over there. That's going to be an unpleasant factor, so I may need to raise up an army to cope with them or whatever. But other than that factor, and maybe Babylon, I don't really need to undertake any campaigns right now. And my armies are kind of positioned in the wrong places, so I'd rather shift them upward. I can see this army trying to take the Syrians on, but there isn't a lot of force there. Unfortunately, my army group is over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I might end up leaving a unit behind, dropping that to only an army and trying to take Babylon on that way. That doesn't sound terribly easy, but it's not like I have much in the way of army available, and I don't have a lot in the regroup box. So, I don't know. The only real advantage right now that I have that might make me want to trigger actions right now is the Medians being in a war, in a foreign war. Now we run over to the Phoenicians, and they're launching their navy into this trade box. I had to spend a card. I kind of wouldn't have liked to. I could have spent it for the AP bonus. No, I would have had to use it during a battle for that. So I can't use this in that way. So I had to spend it for its points, and I have a bunch of extra points after I've moved in and paid a point for search. So I've moved my 4 units in. I think one has to leave if I fail to search. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find naval combat in here. There's no section on it. Presumably it may be... Yeah, I'm not finding combat or search here. I suppose it's time to reread the rules or reskim them, looking for where that is, because it sure the hell is not. I don't see it. Oh well, here, wait. Search procedure. There we go. That probably includes it. Okay, I got to roll 2 dice higher than or equal to the lowest search number on any of the searching ships. My searching ships, I think the search number is that 6, so I'm not very good at searching. Oh, higher than or equal. I'm very good at searching, so I succeed. And now what happens? The procedure for a naval battle. That would be nice to have its own little heading, no? I don't know. Is the same as for a field battle, except there are no extra battle dice. The winners remain in the sea zone and surviving losers retreat. It sounds like there's rout and such in a naval combat as well. Maybe. Alright, I'll take care of that. Successful in destroying the Egyptian ships. I only have 3 here. I was mistaken. I moved 5 in instead of 4. I only paid for 4, so I fought with 4. You're only allowed 4 in there. And I took a hit, which means my fleet was, one of my ships was routed. There's no leadership to reduce that. I guess you could put a leader with your fleet, maybe, but the only thing it's going to do is reduce routes. So then I paid a point to recover the damaged ship and from the regroup box and to rebuild it a point to the full strength. And that leaves me with only 3 points. I threw that in the bank over here. I'm out of cards. And this is the only way I'm going to get another action is to bank some points, because I only get... I'm not going to get it anyway. Alright, I'm going to spend those 2 of those points and sail out like this. I don't think anybody's going to beat me. And I'll be down to 1 banked point. I'm not going to get another action. I forgot it takes 5 points to buy a card. Now I'm over here on the 2 income track, but I'm paying a tribute, so I'm not going to get that much activity out of these miners. In action, used all my points, got myself a tributary city down here. It gives me a little bit more tribute, or a minor city. And then I gathered my forces, and you can see the pillage markers I left behind. Marched in and took Nippur. Very, very easy to take these 2-point cities, as long as nothing's in the way. Sealand's going to be kind of harder to deal with because it costs a couple action points to move into there. And I think it may require an attrition check, but damned if I know, because I don't see anything. I'll have to look up Sealand specifically if I have a desire to move there. I wonder what this is for. Anyway, we're beginning to chip away at the Babylonians. They could choose to surrender if they wish. Otherwise, they're going to face, the Assyrian wrath here. The problem, though, is if I let the Assyrians go here, then they can deal with other things that could be problems. So Babylon's still kind of sitting interested in the rebel camp situation, but it's possible that they may wish to surrender. I have to look up the rules for when you can surrender. I have to lose at least 3 home cities. And I did not lose a huge battle, so that the timing on the huge battle or the cities kind of seems strange to me, in the sense that maybe I'd have to do it at the moment that the event happens, but I'm not sure about that. As far as I'm concerned right now, I have no right to surrender, so much as I'd like to buy them off, I'm not going to be able to. I seem to remember there was a way of ending a war through negotiation. I've been having trouble finding that one, though. No big shock, huh? No big shock. The way these rules are set together. Wait, if a miner is at war because of lands. Okay, here it is. It's under peace. They can negotiate it freely as an alternative to surrender or conquest. You can pay tribute at the given rate of 2 eco. What? Or by giving a home card to the enemy as tribute. The home card will be returned in the next receive new card segment. I assume it's 2 economic points at that moment that can be granted. It doesn't seem like you can do anything else, although you may be able to announce that you're paying tribute from that point on, perhaps. So that would be an option for, rather than surrender, for the Babylonians to kind of bail out of this. And that might actually be a pretty good option. Need to take their pass turn. Remember, they passed the turn before, so they got more points this time to sweep into Assyria down here. They captured 1 territory, the other, they reduced the fortifications down to a 1, but that's, well, we'll see. And I guess that moves us to Egypt. And most of the powers are kind of running low in cards here, which kind of Assyria wants to use its plus cards, its special battle cards and stuff like that for the advance, because they won't be able to push things continuously. Remember I had said, it looks like, all the major powers will stay in with their 5 points for a card. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. If they can save up points, they will keep drawing cards for a while. So Assyria may be able to get more impulses. The other thing is those countries, produce enough points base that they can draw cards. So as long as Assyria's still got cards in hand, they get impulses. If Assyria burns its cards by trumping, the turns are going to be less long because everybody will be out of cards, and then they'll have to stop. So I'm not sure which way that's going to end up. I've been thinking, wow, you kind of do want to burn your cards, because there's no assurance. This guy's got 5 points. Now, he's also got a 3-point reserve, but he could burn himself into a position where he's not going to be generating more cards, and that kind of puts Assyria in a position of, okay, that's one guy gone. If everybody starts doing that, we're going to be in a position where we don't get to use up all our cards the way that maybe we predicted. I'm not sure which is wiser for the non-Assyrian players, to tell you the truth. Move to the Babylonian turn. Maybe I should have trumped in with the Assyrians. I have some desire to trump in here. The thing is, if the Babylonians get another turn, they're just going to build more forces. If I can get them under siege, they won't, and I can start hunger sieging them and working through the time. I think I want to do that. The problem I have is I don't have many cards that I don't want to play for their event, and I have no points in reserve. It's only going to take me a little bit here. Foreign fleet, it allows me to throw a bunch of Assyrian fleet ships down here. That sounds really appealing, because then I can move them into the trade box at some point and get some points off that. Harvest, this is going to allow me to basically route a bunch of units into the regroup box that are outside their home territory. Yeah, like those guys. I'd love to play that. In fact, that's probably going to be my next turn play. Now, I could take an action and play that for its event and just knock it out of the way. But longer turns are probably to Assyria's advantage. I don't want to burn too many cards on interrupts. Surrender. This allows me to take a city out without fighting it. Might be useful against Uruk. I can't do it against Babylon because of the fortress nature, those weird pylons against it. So this is kind of tasty. It's an expensive card though, but I can pay for it if I have a full action. So now I'm down to two of my home cards, both of which are great in battle. I think I'm probably going to use the Assyrian Bloodbath, which just causes an extra round of combat, because I don't think I see too many field battles I really need to do. The Asher Fanatics, this is also maybe a nice choice to throw out. The problem with both of these is they're battle cards that don't cost me anything, whereas God Asher demands Holy War, which I definitely like, costs me a full 6 AP, and it's a 6 AP card that I'm not using. Now, all of these battle cards have high values to them. I'm going to throw the Bloodbath one in, because that just gives me an extra round of combat no matter what. Now, that can help me really eliminate an enemy, but and then my main focus is going to be here. I don't know where else I'm going. So we're still part way through. We've started a hunger siege in Babylon. I don't want to attack that big a force. And we've launched a war on Phrygia. That doesn't cost us anything because they were a tribute refuser. It sets up the Phrygians over here. You can see their setup. There's part of the setup that's kind of ignored. Tarsus is actually independent, kind of like Gaza is. Nothing, wasn't obvious over here because Phrygia, it's part of Phrygia's setup. This listed as inactive. So I ignored their entire setup. I'm wondering if there are more of these that are available to be attacked by other people if desirable. However, we'll ignore that for now. And we've marched in and we've taken the city. And at this point, we make a tribute check And that's going to be based on the strength of their capital, which is a 2. Check the city defense number. I don't know. So that's how many dice it gets. And if it rolls a 6, it'll still refuse to pay tribute. And they do not. So they've been successfully punished. I don't get to keep the territory unless I wish to beat them up more. You know, I could turn this into a war of conquest if I so desired. I don't particularly want that. I need to move against Syria now. So that gets rid of that marker. And actually, these guys come off the map. And I'm going to set them up exactly where they were. I'm going to just put them back in the tray because their setup has not been changed at all. And I still have a couple of points to spend, which might be on recuperating troops. It might be on something else. Almost all the miners, the exception being Phoenicia here, who does not produce enough to get themselves another card, have been knocked out of the game. We had a couple of things happen and interrupt using this harvest event, which cost nothing for the Assyrians, and they managed to clear out the annoyance of this siege. Throwing everything into the regroup box will cause the Medes a little bit of trouble, and of course they got more troops coming in as soon as this foreign war ends, which is kind of automatic. And then Elam did its conversion, its home card conversion, which allowed it to turn its mercenaries into regulars, which is a huge bonus because remember, mercenaries are really, really cheap. So that's what you're going to see with Elam as kind of their big advantage, is that they're able to convert their mercenaries into regulars on a regular basis. And now we're back around to the beginning of I don't know if we're on 3 or 4 around, but I think it's we're kind of getting down towards the end of the deck, or at the end of the hand. You see the Medes only have 1 card left. Wait, make that 2. Right? They haven't used this one. Yeah, make that 2 cards left. And I think that's pretty much where we are with everyone. Babylonians have 3 left. So we're going to get at least 3 more actions, but we may have to play some of these events for Assyria as something outside of impulse plays. They also have to be careful. They can't play, like if they take a turn and everybody else is done. Well, if everybody else is done, if they're going to take a turn, they don't get an opportunity to take it if they would be first next time. Now, they won't be first next time automatically if they take their turn, because this does float between turns, so that's not a danger. The danger, someone like one of these down here would be possible for having that, but the real danger is they make a play and nobody else has a play to make, and now they don't get another play, which is kind of what's to be assumed. And that, though, the problem there, if they engineer it so that it works out that way, they don't get first move next turn, which is also perhaps something to keep in mind. Maybe they want to run through their cards more quickly so that they do get the first action, because that can be kind of potent. Boy, caught myself cheating. I built these mercenaries for the Assyrians here, or dropped them off there. I'm going to ignore the fact that I did that and just pick them up as if they're regular Assyrian units, but you can't do that. You can't leave mercenaries sitting in your city like that. I think that's an indication that, like, you don't own the thing. I'm on the Assyrian turn, paying the pillage cost. One interesting thing about pillage, it looks like there's no reason for the player to ever recover pillage costs. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'll see some reason economically why those pillages are a bad idea to leave kicking around, and then I'll say, ah, shit, that was stupid. But there are rules to force you, if all the pillage markers are on the map, then everybody's forced to rebuy some of them. But in general, it looks to me like the survivability of the land is just going to go downhill based on that. We'll see. Okay, we got our first end of a foreign war card here. And let's go into Assyria. They incremented their hunger siege and marched in and punished successfully the Syrians. The Syrians should be off the map at this point. They're no longer at war. They're now paying tribute. Their setup is the same as normal. I've got to recover to that, but I want to take care of this foreign war. The way this is handled is at the end we roll a d6 for each unit. If there's an even number, the unit will take a hit, and no matter what, it goes into the regroup box. So this is a potent way to get rid of people's units. 1, 2, these 2 are damaged. Jeez, this whole army's in the regroup box. Another one here. And Elam is not in much better shape here, as you can see. They got 3 as well. Okay, their units all make it in safely. But they're still, well, these are cheaper to recover than destroyed units. And Elam's been buying units instead of recovering from here. The reason being, I don't know what. I forgot I had a pile of units in there more than anything else. But yeah, the Medes are definitely going to have to pull those units out. I'll clean up the Syrians, and hopefully I'll remember to look up to see if pillaging does any economic damage. Yes, it does. Under computing income somewhere or another, pillage markers must be removed and paid for if possible. For every 7 pillage points in the country's home area during the interphase. I don't know what that must means. You reduce the economy by 1 level. Any pillage points less than 7 have no effect here. So yeah, you really do want to fix them. The recovery points from 1 impulse that can be spent on them, well, they seem kind of high, because recovering 7 pillage markers is going to cost you 7 action points. How many different times around do you get? How many cards do you get? Well, that depends on your economy, but your economics is only down 1 for every 7. So it seems to me you'd have to have at least 7 cards for it to pay off to buy these off. I don't know what the must means, though. You know, how do you enforce that, right? On the last card, do I have to do deficit spending? Is the last thing I have to do? Do I have to fix it no matter what? I don't know. The must seems rather tenuous, to say the least. But on the other hand, if you don't fix it, it seems to be to your advantage. So that seems a little unfair. The Medes recovered their regroup box units. And now we're at the point where, hey, maybe it's time for a preemption, except no. There are no preemptions. Assyria has as many cards as Babylon, which means it no longer has an advantage. Once Babylon plays its card, there would be room for a preemption, but there are no more countries left to play. Well, I could preempt on Elam's turn, if I so desire. But as it stands, I've got to give Babylon the next turn. It's not a big deal, because I'm just hunger sieging them. It's not like I'm blitzing all over their country or anything. It's got the hard and long walk through the desert, which they're taking attrition. They lost a couple of steps for that. They had to rebuild them back. They've got 4 points banked on their Pharaoh Takes Action card, which is cool because it can throw them up to Gaza. Well, that's not too useful until I own Gaza, so I've got to take that before I can start really playing in the game, and that's, well, I hope I can do it next impulse. Babylonians are undertaking a complex turn. They had a decent amount of points, spent some of them on the Medes for mercenaries. Now the Medes have 8 points built up. I believe they can do this. I don't know how else mercenary purchases would work. it would be really problematic if you have to blank your money out in order to get anything and you couldn't sell all your mercenaries or stuff like that. But none of that's specified in there. It does say you can only save 4 at the end of a turn, but I don't know if it doesn't seem like there's anything that says you can't stock more if some falls on you. I don't know. Anyway, I would have perhaps cut a deal and gotten rid of the extra bucks if not. We've cheated a lot for the Assyrians here. And then they marched up with their new leader and came out with the garrison. That's all in order to relieve this siege. Now, they could do the garrison coming out and attacking all by itself for free as soon as the Assyrians tried to do the hunger thing. The Assyrians paid and went into deficit spending. They're at -2 now. To use the God Asher demands holy war. This is going to give me a +1 to all my combat factors here. And it affects the leaders and bonus die rolls, because this looks like the worst, closest to a battle I might lose. I don't feel like I have tremendously good odds here. Just be taping straight through, but the firepower from the bows, looked like I had a ton of bows here because I put a lot into the defense of the city expecting an assault or a siege. It's just soaked up by all those heavies. I don't remember how many hits I did. It was 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heavies. All those bowmen are just totally worthless against the heavies. And both sides have kind of committed their chariots as heavies because, well, it's too effective to eat up the bow shots that way. That attack was a pure mistake by the Babylonians. Their entire force was wiped out. 11 hits spread out. Some of the stuff goes into the regroup box. They weren't able to, take all their hits on. They can only take half their hits basically now because they were divided into 2 forces. And one of the forces was almost all mercenaries. That force took most of the hits. I kept my leaders alive and I got some crap. These are just as good as dead because anybody can buy them. Of course, I have the points, so I could buy them back right now, but I'm not counting on being able to really mount any kind of situation here. So I could just surrender and give up Nippur, and that may be the best I can do. Unfortunately, I don't really want to give up territory because the Babylonian market card only works if there are no enemy troops within my initial borders, which means if I've lost any territory, I can't get that income increase that I'd like to get. I'm not quite sure what to do, though. I may send a bowman off into the trade box, start raiding and shit. It's just, it looks so hopeless. And yes, I cheated for the Assyrians, but they are still potent. They're potent even, without taking that into account. And it just helped them a little bit. And of course, they may not be so potent. They would not be anywhere near as potent if they couldn't roll to knock people out of the war. But the rules as written, although they don't appear to support that, also are contradictory. And it seems to make the most sense to me when I try to apply logic to the whole situation. Assyrians had a humongous number of points this turn, but they made some errors. They launched a siege on Babylon with its 4-strength fortress. They were only able to get 1 hit on it, so now it's down to a 3-strength. They might have been better off, they've got to go forever to get the starvation on it. The only reason they were doing that was there was a big army in there. But now, they're not getting the distance they wanted. And they spent some of their points. They could have spent 10 points to reposition out of Chaleb all the way up. But they wanted to pick up some troops along the way. And it more or less costs less points for them to physically walk there. They get there a little slower, but they picked up a unit on the way. They did some repairs. Repaired the walls back here, upgraded their Persians, and banked some points, which is kind of cool. That puts it on the Medes with also actually a fairly large number of points. This may be the Medes' last card. However, if they leave some points in the bank, they'll be able to get another card next turn. Pretty much guaranteed, because we see the Assyrians have already gone and they have a card left. Now, they could play that as a reaction. It could be possible that nobody has a card left. And I won't get a chance to buy back cards. But at least I'll get to keep the banked points and start next turn with them. The Medes built up a huge army here. Now, they can't use that all until starting game turn 4. The first 3 turns of the game, they don't have a real kingdom, which is going to be a problem, but it may help them defend themselves. It looks like they're still at war with Assyria, and if nobody else steps in, it's going to cause some problems for them. Well, we still have Babylon at war. They still haven't withdrawn either. Our feeling is, wow, what do we do? You know, it's either stand up to the Assyrians, as some of these mainly historically did, and get kind of beat up, and maybe give the Assyrians points, or give them a free hand to do what they want and get their points where they want. It feels more important to fight them, because to tell you the truth, you don't have many opportunities for victory points in the early part of the game. Nobody's really been gaining any. I'm not quite sure what these victory points represent, but they're indicated in the starting setup, and so I handed them out. They might have something to do with an alliance. Maybe there's a victory point that's not listed here that I didn't see. Form alliance with a minor nomad cost gives you one. I created 2 alliances with the Assyrians that I didn't realize. So that's something to keep an eye on. Okay. Doesn't go away when you lose the alliance, though. So we'll see how that goes. Nobody's really been concentrating too much on the trade wars. I think Egypt might throw their weight in there. They just launched an attack on Gaza. Very little chance of a siege working. Obviously, starvation's not going to work. They're using up their last card, as did the Medes. And now, so they did an assault, and they ended up 1 hit short of going in. So they're going to take damage, and they did nothing to their enemy. I sent a couple of my light infantry into there. I figure I can kind of do without them. I might send this one in too. That drops me down to 2 points. It means I have less reserve. Now I'm going to spend 1 on raid. But I'm hoping that I can get victory points off the trade thing. And so I roll a die for each of these to see who I hit. And 6 is a failure, but 4 and 5 means I hit Babylon and Elam. And they get these markers. They'd get to place them back there based on their own successful raids. I think I'm only allowed to raid once in a single impulse. Yeah. Wait, no. More than 1 unit per impulse may be moved to the raid box. So I couldn't spend all those points. Shit. Well, that gets me 2 back. Let's see which roll it was. Elam, Babylon. Okay, so Babylon got hit, not Elam. And that means I'll leave these down here. Well, that kind of sucks, but can I just keep hitting? You see, there doesn't seem... Let me find this. Raiding. Raiders that entered the raid box cannot be activated in the same impulse. Well, I don't want to enter either then. Alright, screw that. I got too slow towards dealing with this, realizing there are victory points there. I don't remember where this asshole is. Yeah, because I ran this way. I think he's up here. He's probably in his same place he was set up, if I can find Egypt. Well, I was hoping to show you something, and I kind of did, but then I undid it. Memphis has the light times 3. Thebes, I left somebody behind. Tanis is the other one that had one. Okay. I can't bank 5 points. I don't know what else to do with points. I need one more. Yeah. I'm going to have to buy something. I certainly don't want to buy a mercenary. I took losses here. I guess I paid to replace them already. Well, I'll pay 2 to get a leader. That seems like my cheapest option. And I'll put them at Thebes. At least I have a good unit there. And that means I have 3 points left for next turn. I don't want to waste those. Yeah, it looks to me like Assyria is the only person who gets to play the raiding game. However, you spend 1 AP. Raiders that entered cannot be placed. I can't imagine you can do this more than once in a round, but I don't see a restriction on that. I'm going to leave it as is. The people who are going to win the trading game may end up being the guys with naval power in there. And in particular, I think Assyria is the best off there. Oh, no, they didn't enter. They got to still sail in there and fight. Oops. Assyria might win because they got the Phoenicians, and I think allies count towards your trade ability in that case. Okay, I guess that's the end of Egypt. Finish things off with the Crown Prince card over here for Elam. That means they won't have to make a check to see if they get their king. They're due 1 next turn, and that's the end of this swing. We run back to Assyria here. Assyria has no ability to jump in yet. Now, these guys over here have not yet lost their turn. If they had enough money, they could buy a card. And in fact, I forget about Phoenicia here. Does Phoenicia produce anything? Because if they do, they get to buy a card, I believe. Phoenicia's at 2-1. You know, they're not going to have enough points to buy a card, but I believe they still accumulate that second resource, and I may have skipped them sometimes. But again, I've cheated on so many things, who cares? All right, we're going to do this last operations phase on this video, and we'll do the interphase on the next one. That might eat up a good part of it. The card Assyria really wanted to use for its battle effect, but instead they're getting the 5 APs for it. It's an expensive card to use. And man, they got a pile. What to do with it all. They got an army they can build. I haven't been very careful here. Again, the hell with it, but here the Assyrians, you know, the Medes attacked this city, knocked the walls down, but I forgot to mark it, and the same with a lot of these where I didn't buy them back. I'll try to be more careful, no question, but I finally started doing that with the regular siege effect. We got a big -4 here in Babylon. It's worthless now as a defensive location. I don't know if that means destroyed city or not. Given that it recuperates pillage and I believe city walls, in addition to rebuilding the city, there may be something that allows you to actually destroy a city that I don't have on the board. Anyway, we took that. We also marched in and took Zenuya back. And that actually pretty much spent our points. We did some repairing. We made an attempt to sail out here, but didn't find anyone, so I think we have to withdraw. You know what? I got 1 more point here. I'm actually going to spend a point on that as well. See if I kill somebody's trade. I kill number 1, that's Assyria. I get to pick whose trade I get to kill. Well, Geez, I don't exactly know how trade's calculated. I think I'm number one, but I'm going to knock a Babylonian trade counter off the board. Mainly it's because I haven't gotten a chance to use any of these. All right, now we're over to the Medes, and this is kind of interesting. There's still cards, card in the Babylonians' hand. That means Elam is going to be the first country next turn, unless something weird happens. That means the Medes get a chance to go. So for them to go, they get their 5 economic value minus 1 makes them 4. They now have 7 points. They must buy a card, which puts them at 2. And now that they have a card, they must play it. Marduk's Assyrian followers. That doesn't sound like the effect will help them. Assyria may not declare war on Babylonia this turn. Maybe it isn't so good. Cannot be played if Sennacherib is Assyrian king. Alternatively, you can conduct secret diplomacy action. So I could spend 2 points and do a secret diplomacy, or I could take 3 more points with my 2 and have 5 to build up. Secret diplomacy is pretty damn useful. The problem is there is a chance that it'll fail, but I think I'm going to do it. That burns my 2 remaining APs, because I think a free secret diplomacy is a pretty good opportunity. Just have to look and consider what I'd want to do. I can get a D6 worth of minor moves. That's not really, I'd be better off taking the points if that's what I was doing. But I could grab a minor city pact, and that's kind of useful. Zirkutia up there looks like something I could maybe keep some control over. So I'll put that in place, and that's going to increase my tribute value by 1, which is kind of cool. And that eats up my turn with them. The Egyptians, I think, are in the same position, where they're going to be pulling 5, 6 points. They've got a minor city to get tribute from. That puts them to 9, so they'll be at 4. Grab a card. I don't know why I'm playing all this out. King of the World gives loans. Target state other than yourself draws a card. Only Assyria may play this event. Okay. Alternatively, I can do secret diplomacy. It'll cost me no action points. I've got 4 left to play around with. Is that worth it, or do I need the extra points for this fight that I really would like to get completed? I think long term, the secret diplomacy is a good idea. And of course, with 5 points, I could do some major diplomacy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get these guys up to March, so I can move through them. That might be appealing as well. I don't know. I'll come back after I figure out. Egypt ends up failing completely again here at Gaza. Much worse than last time. I'm beginning to think I've got to starve that out. I just don't have the kind of troops that can handle a fortress. I'm not Assyria. I don't have the good leader. And I don't have the 2 extra bonus dice. Facing the fortress, my units are all penalized. I assume the bonus dice are not. Didn't say anything about that. I've been playing it that they're not. For Babylon, they got a whole pile of points. Didn't do much. They did a raid which hit Egypt, and they don't want to rebuild Babylon right now, so they built up some armies. They're going to lose their mercenaries, have to rehire them, so that's not terribly helpful. And we are at the end. That means Elam is going to be the first player, as I mentioned before. We got the Crown Prince. I'll be handling the interface on its own little video. And we might be able to get this down to 1 or 2 videos per. Right. definitely down to 2, but we might be able to even get it down lower than down to 1 big video for each turn. Of course, that means, like when I did Last Chance for Victory, the videos are going to be kind of slower coming because it's not going to increase my playtime too much, although I am getting into a better pacing here. I don't have to run away quite as much.